So here we're in Clovis, California, and we came out here to take a look at a water leak they had out in the yard. Before we dug, I should have taken a picture before, but I didn't. Anyway, so this area, water was pooling out, and hard to tell what it is. You know, typically it's going to be a point of connection, you know, from the house water to the PVC. You've got a valve down here for the sprinklers. Certainly could be that leaking, but it was pretty aggressive. You know, we went out to the meter box, opened it up, and we shut the house down, and it was just still spinning. A lot of water coming up out of here. So fortunately, this soil is very sandy, so you can see not muddy at all. This was full of water, and so that'll go back in real nice. But what we've done is we had to take out a couple different lines. You can see the drain line that goes over to there. You can see maybe not sitting over there. It's popped up over there. And it also comes from the backyard, you know, right over there. And it's about halfway full of mud. They typically are. They just get filled up and they don't drain very well at all. But anyway, so we cut that section out. It's sitting over here. And the tree had grown over the top of it and crushed it right here. You can see right there. It's just crushed. And so that piece of pipe needs to be replaced. Looks like a 3 or 4 inch, I'm not real sure. Anyways, we've got this exposed pretty good. At least enough to tell us a little bit about where the water's coming from. Now, of course, if it's back over on the copper, we don't have that dug up yet, but that's fine. What we do have dug up is the 1.25 inch main that comes from the street. So that's the PVC line that comes from the meter. That's the T that serves the sprinklers, shutoff valve, and then the hard pressure line that goes back, I'd imagine, to the back side of the first valve, and then over to the second valve. And then, of course, this line right here is the class 200 pipe that goes out to the sprinklers. So that's not a pressure line. That's only on when the sprinklers are running. But what we want to do is find out where the water's coming from. So we're going to crack that water open over there, take a video, see if we can identify. Hopefully it's leaking somewhere in here. And then we'll have to find a way to get it tied back in and get the water back on. Homeowner did request that we replace that valve over there. That's a little project as well. But we can cut that, put an adapter on, get something else screwed on, get it replaced. The other item sticking out on the front, you can see there's that 1/2 inch iron pipe. Not great, it's in soil, it's corroding, plus it's iron pipe threaded into plastic. Don't like that at all because it puts too much pressure on the plastic. It's corroding, plus it's iron pipe. Let me see, it looks like iron pipe, could be brass. Looks like all iron pipe stubbed out, attached to copper. Anyways, that goes over to a hose bib that sits at the very front side of that garage over there. And at least that's what I believe. And the only reason I believe that is it is a pressure line, Schedule 40. It's got to go somewhere. And you got this popping up out of the ground right here. So I would imagine that's where it goes to. So we certainly want to get that tied back in when we're done. Whether or not it comes off the front of that T or whether we pipe it in below is, you know, we'll decide that. We'll probably just glue it in right back into this line. But anyways, for right now, we're going to crack the water, see where the water's coming from, and then we'll take another video. So, sorry about my hand in front of the video, finishing off that last portion. We went ahead and we cut this piece out. So, this is sitting right there, and it goes over to there. Not only do you see that it's not at a 90-degree angle, if you look at this, you can see the pipe coming out, and you can see that the angle there, that's not a 90 degree, and of course that's a 90 degree fitting. So wrong angle, but also if you look in here, this was not glued on. There was no glue in that joint whatsoever, and so that's what's leaking. No big deal. Now, the rest of the project gets pretty expensive, you know. So far we got about $200 into this, and the reason why is we had to cut out, first of all, we had to cut out roots. All of this perimeter, this was all roots. So all of this, you can see where it's cut, all of that was growing around everything. So just to get down to the pipe, we had to cut all these roots out. And it appears that there's nothing else here that's leaking. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and cut that out over there. Take that, I mean, we can tie it back together, but I don't like that pipe right there, that's for sure. And it's iron pipe, but I guess we could tie it back together with, see, this thing spins Moves pretty good. I don't know what to do with it. Anyways, we'll figure out what to do with it to get it tied back in, because it is a live hose bib over at the front of the garage. Maybe get some 1/2-inch PVC fittings, glue it back together, let it dry. But anyways, I don't see anything else to do here, unless you just were really set on, hey, I want to get everything fixed and make sure that it's right. Great, but honestly, that's the only thing we can find. And so if we tie that back together and let it dry, I think you're going to be okay. Now, the rest of the line, we didn't install it, so, you know, that 90, don't like it. Coupling, did they glue it together right? I don't know. That wasn't glued together right. And then, of course, we can get it back together here. And it goes all the way underneath the sidewalk over there to the front, very front of the garage out there. So that's your line. And, you know, hopefully the rest of it's in good shape. It is the right size pipe. It's class Schedule 40. Not class, but it's a Schedule 40 pipe. So maybe we'll just go ahead and put some fittings in there and tie it back together and then turn the water back on. I know you talked about the valve, but you're not here right now, and honestly, that would be, to replace all that and dig it down, you're probably looking at about $800, you know, to cut that out, put a valve on, bring it down, etc. I don't know if you want to do that. So anyways, that's where we're at. Take another video when we're done. So we're still here in Clovis, California, and we've got our buddies next door letting us know that we're not supposed to be here. A couple of them. Anyways, so this was the original part that we cut out. You can see it's bent back, and they were trying to fit it at an angle, and I showed you in the first portion of this video. Those two lines weren't lining up. So what we did, this was just the easiest thing to do, just to test it, to make sure everything else is good. There's that iron pipe T that was in there, screwed into copper. Bad place for it. And then, of course, this piece of iron pipe right there, screwed in, and it's corroding through. So eventually that's going to spray. And then it drops down and turns and goes over to that line that's open right now, that 1/2-inch PVC line, and it goes over to the garage. So we just took it all apart, put the hose bib back where it belongs, turn the water on, and we don't see anything else in this area. Now, I don't want to cost you an arm and a leg. I don't want to do anything we don't have to do. I know you said you'd prefer to see a ball valve over there instead of that gate valve, but it's working. Copper doesn't corrode in the soil. PVC is not a problem. All of these roots were grown over your shutoff valve for your sprinklers, that gate valve down there. So you can see some of the pretty massive roots that we cut out here. Keeping in mind, and I explained this to you before we began, you could lose a tree from stuff like this, but it was growing right through your piping, and at some point it was going to bust your main. So this guy right here, this guy right here, all of it, and then down low, we cut it to where we could dig this all out, so it's nice and free now. Don't know what else you got it going over that way, but honestly, if it's working, don't fix it. We can if you'd like, but you know, we'd have to quote you a price on that, and you're probably going to spend, you know, at least $800 working on that. Right now we've been here a couple hours already, so we're already at 4. You got a drain line to replace. We could certainly go get some fittings for that. We can abandon this if you would like, or get it tied back in, but that would require getting a brass tee over there, a brass nipple, and then some PVC, drop it back down, tie it back in, glue it together, let it dry, and you'll be good. Unfortunately, they're at homeowners at church right now, so we can't ask that question, and I think it'd be poor behavior to call them in the middle of church. That would probably be wrong. So anyways, that's where we're at right now. Water's on. There are no problems here. So I think what we'll do is I don't know, maybe we'll get a brass fitting, stuff like that, and just do what we think we should do. And then hopefully you don't want to replace the rest of it, because we'd have to cut this down here where that valve's at, the 1.25 inch down low. We'd have to cut it there, dig all this up over there to get over to the copper, solder an adapter on, get a valve on, and then get, you know, back down to PVC and get it all tied in. We can certainly do that, but we can't ask that question. We don't have you know, the authority to proceed to do that. Anyways, that's the video. If that's it, that's it. We're done. Outside of that, we're done in Clovis. So we're still in Clovis, California, and we just finished repairing a little copper, not copper, it was a galvanized pipe, and we have a first portion of this video, actually a couple or maybe even 3 first portions of the video show the pipe, and of course this was the fitting, that was not even glued, and this is the pipe that it was not glued to. Oh, and look, see the I just saw this. You can see that. So where the water was actually escaping, you know, the soil was keeping it in place, but there's no glue on it. But you can see where the water spraying out just chewed through the plastic. So that was why it was spraying so much. So joint was not glued, spraying there, and so that was your leak. And then we gave you the option, hey, you know, I know you were concerned about that valve over there, but we're into the project now. You know, we've got, I don't know, 3-4 hours into it. So to dig that up, and I showed you previously all the tree roots that we cut out. Not only do these come out horizontally, but they turn and they go down. So they were surrounding all the pipe down there. So now you can see it's nice and clear around the sprinkler valves, where the shutoff valve goes to the sprinklers, the lines coming out, everything. So that's cut back. You may or may not lose this tree, and we explained that to you. When you cut roots, sometimes you lose a tree. You said you were fine with that, so that's good. We didn't want to leave this iron pipe in place because you can see this is all the way at the top where it was corroding. But also down here you can see the corrosion, that blackened portion. That's starting to eat through, and then of course plastic screwed over iron pipe, not a good idea ever. But so what we did is we took Schedule 80 PVC, and here's a portion of it that's left over. So you can see the Schedule 80 pipe quite a bit thicker than the Schedule 40 pipe. You know, put those side by side and you can see, hopefully. Anyway, Schedule 80 much thicker. So we put everything back together the way it was. We just, you know, you had that all on there, that galvanized tee, little nipple, little hose bib, same as it was, except for now you got PVC going all the way down into the soil. We got it wrapped so that in the event it sits in the sun, it doesn't deteriorate the plastic. So it's wrapped with 10 mil, 40 mil, the PVC wrap down to the soil. Then we made a transition over to the Schedule 40 pipe. This is going to be underground, and then over here tied back in. And so that's, we need to let that dry for an hour and then turn the water on, test it, make sure. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and start filling this hole in. I've called the homeowner twice. They're in church, and I understand, you know, they maybe went out to breakfast after this, but we can't proceed without being authorized to do work. So, and we have to button up. We can't just stand out here and wait. And I can't leave this hole here. Someone steps in this and gets hurt, and then we're liable. So we're going to start filling it up. We'll get it filled back up all the way to the bottom of this line, the half-inch line, so we can monitor that. We'll go ahead and we have some sand with us. We'll sand in around that valve and get this little cover back on. And then by that time, hopefully it'll be dry. We'll backfill this in, and we'll be done. So we're still here in Clovis, California, and we've got everything backfilled and back in here. What we did do is around this irrigation box right here. It's just a piece of 4-inch PVC in there, and then with a cap, looks like a drainage cap on top. We went ahead and put like there's 40-pound bag, maybe even a 60-pound bag of sand underneath it. Reason why is this tube gets filled up with dirt, and you can't even find your valve. So what we did is we went ahead and sanded it in the bottom. We had some sand on the truck, so as you can see now, maybe you can't, there's the valve down in there. So if you have a key, you know, I mean, you can certainly reach down with your hand. I like to see a 6-inch here. You certainly could come back and put a Christie box similar to what you've got over there for your sprinklers. Put it on there, take that whole thing out, fill it with gravel. That's what I like to see, because then you can get on there and work on that valve if you have to. But anyways, we showed you the other videos. Everything was fine with the exception of that line that was dropping down here. This 90 that was sitting right out here coming off the galvanized line wasn't even glued, and it was spraying. So we put Schedule 80 PVC back in. Don't bump this. If you got a landscaper coming out here, don't bump that around. But it's tied in, it's rigid. You can see there's not much movement from the home out to there, so that's good. We did show you the root system, how we'd cut it, and this drain line, you can see it started there and it went right here, right by this tree. This is where we cut it, right next to the drain line. Well, this actually turned and went down into soil. So did this one over here. It turned, went down into soil, and it had crushed the pipe. And so we looked for some. We couldn't find any. You know, we just went over to the Ace Hardware store over there on Fowler and Shaw. Couldn't find any. It's chock full of mud, and it's broken from where that tree root was sitting on top of it. So we just didn't want to put it back in there and pretend like it was okay. So you have to get an irrigation guy back out here. Your site gate is locked. Otherwise, I would throw this debris away. That would be nice. You could bring one of your cans around here and throw the sprinkler, the old piping away, and the roots, and even get this thing thrown away. But side gate is locked, and we've made a couple calls out. And of course, it's Sunday, and they're out church and then eating and whatnot. So, anyways, we did want to show you that. So that's capped off and good. We've left the ditch low. We've scraped off all the dirt over here, but we've left it low because you need to get this tied back in. So any irrigation contractor will come out, replace that, coupling all that in, coupling on this end. We took a couple pieces of plastic from this bag of sand that we used, and we closed each end just in case a little creature decides they want to go for a walk down one of these lines. It's capped off so nothing can get in there. I don't have anybody I can refer you to. I can help you look if you'd like me to. We can look on Yelp and see if we can find an irrigation contractor to come out here and replace that. Or if you have someone that's handy, a nephew, I don't know, anybody. Anyways, that, like I say, we can put it back in. Don't have the couplings to put it back in, but it's damaged, needs to be replaced. So that's an irrigation contractor there. Water is still off. We're letting the glue dry. Want to make sure that it's nice and dry before we turn it back on. That feed goes over to the front of the garage. And here's the thing. If you ever have trouble with it, somewhere in the line, you know, and there it is right there. You can see. There's where it goes right there. That white PVC goes all the way over to the front of the garage. You ever have trouble with it? Just come out here. Cut that whole thing off. Just cut that PVC line off right there. Unscrew that T. Put the hose bib on. Done. Don't even mess with it. I mean, it's nice to have a hose bib out on the garage side over there so you can wash your cars. But if, you know, if something happens, you know, especially under the concrete over there, underneath one of these big bushes, you know, you're going to chase it down. You're just going to pay money, you know, to get that repaired. And you certainly can. But I'd abandon it, you know, and then just get a longer hose, whatever you want to do. But anyway, scope of our work is done. I apologize that you weren't here. I usually like to have the homeowner here to talk them through what it is that I would like to do and see if they're agreeable to that. In this case, all we could do is button up our project. We can't leave a hole out here that, you know, and this is not bad. You know, if you walk down into there, I mean, you know, it's walkable. You can walk down into this and not get hurt. So, but you still just be careful around this. You know, it's not deep, but it is a little hole until you get the dirt back in there, get the drain in, get the dirt back in, and you're good. So just be careful with that. So anyways, yeah, we would have liked to have talked to the homeowner, but we couldn't, and we need to get the water back onto the home and keep this project under 4 hours. We're going to give you a big discount, mainly because you know, you've got some other you got another trade that has to come in and fix this line. That's not optimal over there the way it's repaired. I mean, it's your pipe, but my pipe's good. Schedule 80 pipe, great. Schedule 40 pipe in the ground, great. The glue, when it's dry, we'll test it. That's all great, but you know, me, I get crazy. I'd like to come in here and cut the main out and put in a new main, the 1.25 inch, you know, ball valve, and PVC down, tie it in, get you some new sprinklers over there. I'm pretty fussy, so but that's all we could do without the consent of the homeowner. Anyways, blah blah blah, lots of words. Hopefully that you are pleased with the installation. Outside of that, we are done.